When it comes to slavery, America was the worst.
The Atlantic slave trade from Africa to the Americas was different from any other type of slavery.
The United States didn't inherit slavery from anybody. We created it.
American slavery was worse because
the slaves were reduced to property. They were chattel property. No other system of slavery did that except American slavery.
We got you. Not a chance. Not this time. It never happened. It never happened. We made this one up.
There are good, hardworking, effective people who are not doing anything wrong in basically every group. We have all this stuff. And so people are like, hey, now that we can talk, this is really happening in a giant proportion by this group. What's up with that? And so part of it is, as the whole world said, it's accountability. You guys are known for X thing. What's the deal with that? Like, can we count on you to not do X fucked up behavior, please? And then other people are like, oh, that never happens, and how dare you say that? And it's like, well, it happens a lot, actually. Here's the numbers. So can we address the problem, actually? We're not going to sit here and just be gaslit. Because white people have been made to feel completely to blame for stuff that non-living people that look like them did. And so now we're trying to say, hey, people from your group explicitly, definitely do this thing today. So let's talk about that. I don't want to hear about your sensitivity and feelings.
We have to exterminate white people off of the face of the planet to solve this problem.
We're going to actually just have this conversation because we grew up with this bullshit. So Marxism frames everything through the lens of oppressor and oppressed. Who's the oppressor and who's the oppressed? Okay? And we get two examples. Slavery, which is white people against black people. And the white people were the oppressors, the black people were the oppressed. The second one was the Holocaust. The Jews were the victims and the white people were the oppressors. Who's the majority in this country? White people. So we have been indoctrinated to believe that the majority of people in this country are the permanent oppressors. That is a psyop that is done on purpose, and that was done so that the majority was always on the heel defending everything and qualifying everything from the position of the oppressor in everyone's eyes. So it took a lot of power from people to have them framed that way. And we also ignored a lot of history in order to get to that point, because it's not a permanent white people are the oppressor, and it's not a permanent, black people and Jews are the victims. Okay. Like, there's a lot of context. There's a lot of gray areas. There's a lot of bad shit that people have done across time and history and in different locations. So anyways, here's the unraveling, like how we got here from the education standpoint, the bad, corrupted education standpoint. And this is going to freak you out probably. Dagnar says, but which white people, Jeff? The English whites or the German whites? Well, that's the funny thing, Dagnar, is that it seems like all white people are to blame for the Holocaust. Like, that's the way that it's framed, that any white person that loves their country, that loves their people and race, that cares about national sovereignty, needs to tone it down because otherwise there's going to be a Holocaust again. Like, that's the way that it is absolutely taught at school, is that we don't let white people be proud. We don't let white people be sovereign because we know what happened last time. And that's explicitly what happens if white people have power, is that they will try to destroy the entire world and kill off every non-white person. 100% of the time.
The original sin of slavery.
The original sin of slavery.
today Americans are taught when it comes to slavery, America was the worst.
The Atlantic slave trade from Africa to the Americas was different from any other type of slavery.
The United States didn't inherit slavery from anybody. We created it.
American slavery was worse because
the slaves were reduced to property. They were chattel property. No other system of slavery did that except American slavery.
That's complete nonsense.
Wilfred Riley is a political science professor and author of Lies My Liberal Teacher Told Me.
Generational slavery, like if you're the son of a slave, you're a slave, that was extraordinarily common. Slavery around the world was slavery.
Books like this, Unfinished Nation.
Yeah.
Slaves in Africa were kept unfree only for a fixed term.
No, is the short answer. Most of the slaves taken by these sort of players would be either kept as slaves for their entire life or, more likely, sold to the whites and the Arabs in 2 years.
Today, partly thanks to the New York Times 1619 Project, students are taught that America's slavery was unlike anything that existed before.
We're the worst society ever. We've done things that no one else has ever done. And sometimes there's nothing wrong with acknowledging your historical mistakes. I mean, I'm Black, Irish, a bit Native American, at least per the family lore. I mean, those are three peoples that have experienced a great deal historically. Nothing wrong with acknowledging that. But it's extremely odd to focus only on the negatives of your society and to exaggerate those.
Americans are taught that slavers caught people in Africa and shipped them here.
Correct.
But few are taught that most slaves were not shipped to the United States.
Between 10.7 million and 12 million slaves from Africa went to the New World. We got a little under 400,000.
Under 400,000 out of 10 million.
The extreme focus on slavery in the United States, why?
Hang on a second. So just let's blow this up a little bit from Statista, okay? So they're saying of the I'm sorry, this is crazy. Of the 12 million slaves from the transatlantic slave route, 400,000-ish or less than came to the United States. Cuba got 765,000. Jamaica got 905,000. The other Caribbean islands got 2.7 million. Guyana's got 356,000. Brazil got 3.1 million. Argentina and Uruguay got 92,000. Holy shit, dude. Are you kidding me? I never knew that in my life. I never knew that. And that's hilarious because I was gonna say, see, it was mostly Spain, but then 3 million to Brazil. And who has Brazil? Who or what do the Brazilians speak? They speak Portuguese. They all speak Portuguese. And so the Portuguese brought 3 million freaking slaves over to Brazil. And then the Spanish brought probably, like 7 million in these other areas, or 6 million in these other areas. And then we got 400,000-ish. That is so funny. I never knew this. Like literally today, I'm finding this out. Worm says 400,000 is about 3.5% of the 12 million. And you know what? That's what it is. This is all it's all about Marxism. So they tried to push Marxism, and so they had to take very specific events, and then they exaggerate certain parts of them and put all of the blame on exactly one party. That's how they did it. So, Kamala Harris and her family in Jamaica owned a lot more slaves than probably any of you guys. Her family probably owned more slaves than most people in this chat, I would say. And that's okay. We don't have to hold it against Kamala because she didn't do it. Her parents didn't do it. Maybe it was her grandpa. I don't know exactly how far back it was, but it wasn't her. But the thing is, we have been brainwashed into thinking that the United States portion of the New World slave trade is the only slaves that ever happened. And it's so dumb, and all these people believe it. And part of it is because of being disinterested. And the other part is because every year in school, they give you the slavery unit and the Holocaust unit, and they do the same thing. White people bad. white people bad at both times. And so you just grow up viewing yourself and others through that Marxist lens. I remember that. I'm half German, or almost half German. So whenever the Holocaust unit came around, I was feeling extra not proud of half of my family. Extra not proud. You know what I'm saying? So, and the reality is, I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm Mexican. Hola. No entiendo. No comprende. Because that's what they taught. Okay? So it was like white people bad. Specifically the Germans. And I felt that every year, over and over again. And not gonna lie, the further we get into this exposure, the smellier everything is. Because you're like, wait a minute, we were told we did all of it. But right here, as you said in the chat, 4%. 4%. Crazy. All right, moving back into this.
Out of 10 million.
The extreme focus on slavery in the United States, why did that happen? One reason is that a lot of black people survived here. Slavery was harsh, but it's a lot less harsh than clearing the Brazilian jungle.
All right, but American blacks are at a disadvantage. They have less capital, financial and educational capital. What's the harm in pointing out how abusive white people were?
The harm is that pointing out how abusive white people were is not going to get black Americans any more capital. Most of the problems of the modern black community don't have anything to do with historical ethnic conflict 160 years ago.
The Great Society asked not how much, but how good.
Riley says most of the problems began when welfare began.
Crime in the black community, every time I've tried to break this out, increased about 800% between, say, 1963 and 1993. Racism didn't increase between 1960 and the modern era. You're looking at the impacts of the Great Society, the welfare programs.
Riley argues it's better to teach the truth, that almost every society had slavery.
Yeah, every society had slavery. They all did. Kay says, my great-grandfather was a slave owner. He owned my great-grandmother, bought her from a neighbor because he fell in love with her. Wow. Now, was he single? Or were they, was it the mistress? Curious. Let's see. I believe what I was taught in school until I started reading more and researching for myself. Yeah, the more I research, the more I know I should anticipate most of what I was taught at school was not true, but fed the narratives of the Marxist lens that they're trying to put over everything. And the people who graduated with my indoctrination of public schooling went on to college, which ramped it way up further. And then they graduated college and then they started contributing to the culture, which is why you see the music turn woke. You saw the movies turn woke. I saw podcasts turn woke in real time before all this kind of started happening. And it was something else. Okay. So looking at here, Araya says, that's a sweet story, something good out of the bad. Producer K says, agreed, he had to save for a few years to do it. Oh, to buy her. Gotcha. Slappy says 1,000,000% it was the Dems' fault with LBJ. Yes. Yes, 100%. I totally agree. The laws wouldn't allow them to marry. He was widowed. This was in Virginia. Agnar says, so she was a sex slave. I don't think so. What would I know? But from the tone of the story, it sounded like it wasn't. Kay says, no, she loved him too. The laws just didn't allow them to marry. Okay, got it. Dagnar says, I was trying to be funny. Oh, yeah. Got it. Brutal. Tone is tough with quippy jokes in the chat sometimes. All right, here we go.
The Aztecs, the Persians, Egyptians, Greeks, Romans, Vikings, and most of all, the Arab world.
The Arabs were probably history's premier slave traders.
Sometimes they captured poor whites from Slavic countries.
Yep.
The Muslims, many of whom were dark-skinned or even black, took so many blonde slaves out of this region that they gave the word slave to the global slave population.
Many slaves were forced into harems.
Sexual slavery was very much a part of slavery. Like if your group was defeated in war, the men would probably just be killed or they'd be sold as farmhands. The women would often be sold as harem girls or prostitutes.
More than 1 million Europeans were enslaved, but Muslim slave traders took more people from Africa.
The Arabs targeting Africa took out about 17 million people.
The British and then the Americans were the rare people who moved to abolish slavery.
So yeah, the British Navy, in a story almost no one now knows, sank something like 1,600 slave ships. It freed 150,000 people that were enslaved at the time.
Because the Brits objected for moral reasons.
Yeah, they'd had enough of it.
Saudi Arabia only abolished the slave trade relatively recently.
Well, that's another inconvenient fact, right?
The Global Slavery Index estimates that even now, although slavery is officially illegal, there are more than 700,000 slaves in Saudi Arabia.
Where there were no Westerners, you'd have a lot of slavery for a long time. And you do.
American slavery was horrible, but it wasn't unique. Our culture would be healthier if we learned about that. And schools dwelling on America's evils hasn't helped Americans get over them. Gallup polls show that after schools started focusing on oppression, race relations got worse.
The idea of generational slavery, the idea of slave trading, none of that was unique to America. And another thing, you don't need radicalism to critique the worst excesses of an existing system. All you need is incrementalism and honesty.
In a few weeks, I'll post a video about another of Riley's myths, the claim that before Columbus, the native people were kind stewards of the environment.
I know every rock and tree and creature has a life, has a spirit, has a name.
Yes. So people hate each other because they've been given a lot of bad information. That's my opinion. Okay? That's my opinion. We hate each other. We can't sit and get along at Christmas dinner is because you have activists who are communists who want to put everything into the victim and oppressor lens so that you can justify anything that the victim does and you can object to anything the oppressor does to either stop it or object to it or whatever. And that's what they're trying to do. And they have done that in a great sense with the left, with the liberals, the diehard left, is that they see everything through identity politics and they see the white people as evil. They see the Christian people as evil. They see the men as evil. They see the straight people as evil. So you have the oppressor complex given to people who are in whatever position. And if you're in that position, it doesn't matter how right or wrong you are, you're going to get wrecked by this system. Thanks for staying to the end. If you enjoyed this clip from ThoughtCast, catch us live over on Rumble Monday through Friday, game streams on the weekends, Deep Thoughts Wednesday night. Smash all the buttons, follow the socials, join us in conversation on Discord, and I'll see you next time.